Welcome in to another episode of Chiefs Focus Live. We have got a fun show today. Chiefs are coming off yet another close win, but they're 3-0, and that's what matters. So we're going to talk about the Atlanta game. We're going to talk about some roster moves that have happened over the last, couple hours. And we're going to figure out how washed Travis Kelce is, according to JP. So with that, my name is Quentin Morris. Got this running the show in the background. And now a guy who I guess just doesn't believe in the Hall of Fame tight end anymore is the old man himself, JP.
You're a jack-off. Hey, man, I don't believe anything you just said, and none of that's true. I'm putting that disclaimer out right now, and none of that is true. How y'all doing, man? How you doing, Quentin?
I think it's hailing outside. I don't know if you can hear it or not.
I can't,
But
no.
okay, that's good because it is very loud. I just had to turn my headphones up because that's how loud the hail/rain is out there right now.
Wow. Yeah, we had that for 3 days last week. Not hail, but we had a lot of rain, and then now it's gone. So I'm happy about it. I'm happy it's nice and sunny and 75 degrees. So, well, let's
All
get
right.
in. What do you want to get into first?
Let's talk about the roster move that happened. Sort of the good vibes of the day. Kareem Hunt has now been added to the active roster.
Yes.
So for those of you that don't know, he was originally signed on the practice squad. That's why he didn't play on Sunday. He has now been promoted to the active roster, which means we could see Kareem Hunt back and playing for Kansas City as early as Sunday.
He'll be on the field Sunday. They how should I say this? They wanted to give him an extra week to get prepared because he did sit on the couch for a week.
It makes sense.
Yeah, but they're not 100% pleased with P Ryan. So, and I don't blame him. I mean, he hasn't done a whole lot. So it's just time for him to get in the game and do what he's got to do. Prove what prove his worth and do what he's always done. He was great with us before. The one thing Andy did say is that he's picked up the playbook really quick, which I don't know why he wouldn't. And he's excited to be back. So I think with the addition of him and, Carson Steele's emergence last week just blew it up last week. I mean, God, he was phenomenal last week. But Kareem is so good out of the backfield as far as the receiving running back is concerned. He's going to do wonders for this team. And he's
that's always been his that's always been the best part of his game. It has been getting the ball out of the backfield. I mean, catching those little flat routes, those little wheel routes. I mean, I said this on the last show, the most memorable play in my head when we talk about Kareem Hunt is it was in the home opener in New England right after they come off their Super Bowl win. Yeah. And the Alex Smith-led offense went and blew the doors off the Patriots. And one of the biggest plays in that game was the Kareem Hunt catch and run where he went, 40, 50 yards to drive down the field. So, yeah, that's always been the best part of his game. And so I'm excited to see them use that because this offense could use a little offensive spark.
Absolutely. He can, he's really good at breaking tackles, especially with his legs. You can't leg tackle him. It's impossible. He breaks tackles better than anybody I've ever seen with their legs. He's great. He's a great blocker, and yet he's phenomenal out of the backfield. So let's just let's see what he does. I have a feeling he's going to look really good against the Chargers right now. And the Chargers are struggling a little bit. They lost Alton. They've lost. I don't think Herbert's going to play as much as he wants to. And I still think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And he's fought through a lot of injury. He played last year with broken ribs. He's done a lot of things that a lot of people wouldn't do. And I think he's a good player, but I have a feeling Harbaugh's just going to say, look, it's time for you to sit. You're just going to have to get healed up and be done with all of this. So this and it's still going to be a challenge. The way we're playing right now, offensively, if that doesn't turn around this week, it's going to be tough. We're a lucky 3-0 football team right now.
Well, for context, I'll say this. I will say that Kansas, despite the lack of offense, Kansas City has the second most points in the AFC. So the only team that has scored more points than them in the AFC has been the Bills.
Yeah.
Now they've blown the doors off of two of their opponents. The Bills have scored over 120 points at this point in the year. Kansas City has scored 75. Yeah. But I do think some context matters to where, Kansas City's offense has been lethargic at some points, but also everybody else's offense have sort of been lethargic as well. So
So
this is
weird.
not just a Kansas City problem. This is an NFL problem.
It is, and they're going to have to really, teams are going to have to figure out how to work around the too high safety shell, or they're going to have to eliminate it. Because if, I mean, and not from for a- for I guess from an NFL standpoint, that's what they brought this to, was a passing league, an excitement driven thing, and nobody wants to. I mean, people in San Diego are bored right now because Harbaugh just runs the ball. That's his, he's the 1991 Marty Schottenheimer style of
Yeah.
coach, and nobody wants to see that anymore. People are bitching now. I mean, if you watch X or any other platform, well, these guys aren't throwing the ball anymore. This is boring. It is what it is. That's part of football. But if you want to continue with your fan base and building it the way you do, or the way you have, you're going to have to figure out something to.
Well, winning solves everything. So as
It
long as
does.
your style, is bringing W's to the
Yeah,
town, then at a certain point it doesn't matter. But
very true.
I think that this is just where football is. I just think that the ebbs and flows of the NFL, right? This is the ebbs and flows of sports, right?
Yeah.
Where the offense gets an advantage for a little bit, then the defense pulls back and they'll get an advantage for a little bit. I
Mhm.
mean, to use any analogy from another sport, I mean, like in baseball, right? They you have balls that have higher spin rates on them, and it makes it harder to make contact with it,
Yeah.
so it takes a while for batters to adjust to that. Or if you look at in basketball, for some of our NBA you know fans out there, when you started to get a guy like Steph Curry who would come in and he would just shoot threes, shoot threes, shoot threes, even though he
Mhm.
plays a position that traditionally didn't just shoot threes. Well, you start to improve your offense like that. Teams had to adjust to that when they were facing the Golden State Warriors. So,
Yeah.
these are just the ebbs and flows that we see in sports, that when you get you get certain play styles that just seem to be really effective, and you catch up with it, and eventually the rest of the league, someone, whether it's an Andy Reid, or a guy like a Matt LaFleur, or one of these other offensive headed minded head coaches, will find that next thing, and it'll get exploited, and we'll get back to some of the high flying offense that we've seen. And maybe it doesn't happen this year, right? Maybe this doesn't happen until next year. Maybe it happens in 2 weeks. This is just sort of the fighting that goes back and forth between the offense and defense.
Very true. I mean, nobody expected Mahomes to be 5-4 right now. Five touchdowns and four interceptions on the season. Nobody expected that. It's a weird thing to even think about. But nobody expected Travis Kelsey to have 8 catches for 69 yards through three
Nice.
games. So it's just different. It's hard to grasp, and this is where coaching comes into play. When your coaches are good enough to pull out a win, regardless if your team is able to put the ball down the field or not, or if you have to adjust to whatever you can do. And Andy's done a pretty good job of that, along with Spags and the defense being so damn good. It's nice to be able to squeak 3-0 out and not be as explosive as we've been in the past. I mean, last year we started off better with the worst offensive group, if you really think about it. So I don't know. It's just different, but I think it'll all pan out, as the team gels and people, tend to get a little more comfortable. Some players have to get back to football mode and mindset. Other than that, I think it's going to be fine. But we could be the Bengals right now and be 0-3. So just saying. Um,
Hey, when Jamar Chase said they were the team to beat in the AFC, they just meant that everybody comes in and beats them.
that's exactly what he meant. Yeah, he didn't mean anything else. What's up, Philip? Um,
Man, if we wanna talk Bengals for a little bit, we can do that, because I think it's just, look, I am eliminating the Bengals from the playoffs.
yeah, they're done.
Um, there have been 3 teams since the expanded playoffs since the 90s that have started 0-3 and have made the playoffs. There have been
Yeah.
3 teams that have done it. The last team did it was in 2019. It was the uh, Deshaun Watson led Houston Texans.
Yeah.
So, look, technically it's possible, but it's not probable. And when you look at the Bengals and moving on, looking at their schedule, look at their division, like the thing that I keep telling people is that you've played 3 games. You played the Patriots at home, you came to Kansas City, and you played Washington at home. 2 of those games were supposed to be wins, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you played 2 divisional games in Kansas City where it's like, man, your schedule was just loaded up front and it's not surprising that you're an 0-3. No, it's a very surprising 0-3.
Yeah.
And the Bengals still have all of their division games left, and that division is very tough. It's the most difficult division in the AFC, really in the NFL, I
In
would
the
argue.
NFL, really, yeah.
And you're going to you gave up 2, I don't want to say gimme games because there aren't gimme games in the NFL, but you gave up 2 games that you were supposed to win at home.
Yeah.
At home. So yeah, I'm removing the Bengals from playoff contention. They will probably go on a couple game winning streak at some point because they still are a good football team. But yeah, this is just the Bengals are done. We don't even have to think about them.
No, no, they're not a team that anybody has to worry about right now. So it's strange. I mean, I had a feeling they were regressing last year, but now it's just kind of it solidified the fact. I think Zach Taylor's kind of, I guess I could say he just kind of rode the wave, and he's kind of pushing himself out of that situation. Is what it is. I don't think Chase is going to be. I don't think they're going to re-sign Chase. I think they're better off re-signing T. Higgins than they are Chase at this point. And that's not being a hater. That's just being the truthful. He wants way too much money. He's way too much of a diva. He's not really. I mean, he had one great catch yesterday, and then that was it. Or Sunday, that was it. Or well, it was last night, I guess. Yeah, last night. One great catch, and that was the end of it. I mean, Burrow put up a lot of yards, threw a ton of passes, and lost. They have no defense to speak of. I don't know, man. It's strange, but it is what it is. You know, the Raiders actually lost yesterday, and to the man, amazing to me, they lost to the Panthers. I don't know if you guys were even paying attention to that on Sunday, I should say. But they lost to the Panthers
Oh yeah,
after
I called that.
yeah, after that big hoopla and Antonio Pierce crying and hugging on the GM and all this stuff, and then they go and get their asses kicked by the worst team in football. I mean, I don't know if you can call them the worst team in football anymore because they just may have beat the worst team in football. We don't know yet. Um, but to lose to them, that's that's a rough ride right there. All the big talk. I don't know, man. They just didn't look good at all. And Gardner Minshew, I mean, look, when you got two Andy Dalton, absolutely. Andy Dalton, I think he changed the course of that football team. But then you also have the Raiders that have 2 backup quarterbacks. You had
Yeah,
to make a choice between one.
it's why there's a I mean there was a real toss up as to who was going to finish at the bottom of this division.
Yep. Yep. I mean, I still have a feeling it's going to be Denver
I,
that
I'm
finishes.
I'm still sticking with the Raiders.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Denver just because I have a feeling that Sean Payton just put a lot of talk into something that I don't think he can fulfill at this point. And I don't think Bo Nix is going to be able to handle some of the teams he has to play, some of the games he has to play. Yeah, he looked a little bit better this week, but I don't know, man. I mean, it's just going to be interesting to see who ends up dead last. But he said he's got the Raiders as well. Could be.
I think that this team I think that this team falls apart. The Raiders fall apart. Like if we just look at their schedule, let me pull up their schedule. And we can kind of run through the next few weeks because it doesn't get much easier for them either.
No.
They have a pretty hard hitting schedule. Like they play the Browns next week, which I know the Browns offense is a joke, but that defense is legit.
Yeah.
And when you yourself don't have an offense, right? Like one, one mediocre interception, in a short field that can flip that game easy. So then they've got to face the Broncos. I mean that's a whatever game. Then they've got Steelers, Rams, Chiefs, Bengals, Dolphins. Like that this is a team
That's pretty brutal.
this is a team that could fall apart before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
the Raiders we could be talking about the Raiders selling off pieces, or the Raiders, we could get reports that the Raiders locker room is falling to pieces
Yeah.
before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I mean, that could possibly happen. I mean, it's just it's true. God, our division's been so bad for so long. For two of the four teams anyway. The Chargers haven't been completely horrible, but during
It's
the
always something with them, right?
it is.
And
They just
it's
got the
always
worst
something.
luck ever. I mean,
And it's
honest to God.
yeah, the injuries that the Chargers are sustaining. They're, at first it was they said it was he had some tendonitis in his ankle, and now he's
It's a
got
high ankle sprain.
a high ankle sprain.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we know that those are things that don't just go away. So then when he was leaving the stadium, on Sunday, he was leaving in a walking boot. So
yeah,
there's a chance that he doesn't even play against Kansas City. And then when you break down their injuries even further, you've got their new right tackle, right,
yeah,
who's been playing phenomenal, right? I
yeah.
mean,
I
he's
wish
been
we'd have got
a
him. To be
great
honest with
rookie.
you, he's an amazing.
Exactly.
His dad was an amazing player.
Yeah. He's hurt. It's just like this is just the way that it is for the Chargers. And you know, even though I'm sure that whenever we play them, that it's going to be stupid. It's going to be a stupidly close game because that's just the way that how this works.
Yeah,
But the Chargers to me are just the Chargers, right? Like, of course
yeah.
they're riddled with injuries. It's just the way that it is.
The problem, and I've finally, I've said this for a few years, and the more I talk to people, the more I believe it. Honest to God, man, they have one of the worst ownership groups in football, and I think that plays a huge part in it. You're in a city that no really doesn't want you there, and then the ownership is just horrid. They don't put enough money into or emphasis on player health, player safety. They don't have the right training staff, medical group. They don't have anybody. I mean, it's just been the same thing over and over and over, year after year. When Philip Rivers was there, he was pretty damn tough. Got to give the guy credit. He was a crybaby, but he was a tough crybaby. He took a lot of punishment over the years he was with LA, and it it just seems like, well, I guess San Diego, whatever he was then, they moved like 5 times, but it just seems like that team is just destined for failure. And I feel sorry for the first round, second round picks that end up with that team, or any pick for that matter, because their career is pretty much set in stone that it's going to be mediocre, and your money is not going to be what it could be, and you're never going to see a ring. Justin Herbert's like one of those guys that I feel bad for, because honestly, if you'd have put him on the Dolphins over the last 2 years, they
Yeah,
may
that
have a
would have been a
Super Bowl.
scary team.
Hell yes. And it's just I don't know, man. It sucks, but it is what it is. You can't really change it. You just kind of have to, as a fan of a different football team, you kind of have to enjoy it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, it is what it is. It's kind of like the Raiders. They've been shit since 2002. So you kind of have to enjoy the fact that even when we weren't the best, we weren't winning Super Bowls, we were still beating those guys. And that's
Yeah.
something that I guess you have to sit back and enjoy. Philip said the Chargers may have to play against the Chiefs on Sunday without Justin Herbert, Joe Alt, Rashad Slater, oh God, and Derwin James. Yeah, Derwin James, I
Yeah.
think, is already out, if I'm not mistaken. I know Joe Alt's out, from what I heard. He's out. So those two
And
guys, you know,
it's crazy. The one, I mean, from one week to the next, they're just brutal with injuries.
yeah, man.
Um, the next team I wanted to talk about, I actually think that I can't believe we need to talk about them, is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Hey,
They're 3-0, and they are just they just playing Steelers football. You
They
know,
are.
like
They
it's
are.
just hella good defense, and it's just have a quarterback that doesn't make any mistakes, and we'll see how far it can get us. And
Absolutely.
man, the Steelers are just proving everybody wrong. Mike
Yep.
Tomlin continues to prove that he is one of the best coaches ever.
Yep. Yep. I mean, this is his 17th year, I think, if I'm not mistaken. He's never had a losing season, and he made the right decision with Justin Fields.
Yeah,
And I hope he sticks with that decision
I
and
think
keeps
you
Russell
have
Wilson
to.
on the sidelines. Yeah. I think I said on, I don't know if it was the last show or the show before, maybe it was the show I was a guest on for. I said, I have a feeling Russell Wilson's injury is going to last through week 4 or 5 because they want to see how well if he continues on this streak. And I think he's going to. All he needed was a change of scenery, which is a lot of players. Russell Wilson got a change of scenery and got worse. So I have a feeling Russ is done. He's there as a backup quarterback. Justin Fields did what he needed to do and proved himself, and he won the job. And he's played lights out football for the most part. I mean, compared to how he played before, and how he was ridiculed before in Chicago, I think he's doing just fine. And I mean, God, Pittsburgh is killing it right now. They're one good football team right now. I hope that continues for their sake, but I mean, in their fans' sake, because they've had a Russ since Ben retired. But uh, I hope they continue to go. They're just killing it. That's a tough football team right now, and
Yeah,
they're in a division that, hey, you could you could sweep that division. Just continue to do what you're doing. Just continue to do what you're doing. Happy for
and
Tomlin too.
when we talk about, you know, what kind of things carry over into especially early into the playoffs, it's division in the divisional round, it's defense, right? Like it's
Mhm.
defense and run game, and that's what the Steelers have been able to do, and it's crazy.
It
It's
is.
crazy that, they just continue to turn out a quality product, and I use quality lightly because sometimes it doesn't look great, but in the end, you score more points than what your opponent did, and you're walking away with W's. And you know
Absolutely.
what? It's because of the way that the Steelers are playing that you're putting pressure on teams like the Bengals,
Hmm.
and teams like the Ravens, because you know that if the Steelers keep winning, then here are their next couple of games. They play the Colts. That's a winnable game.
Yep.
The Cowboys. That's a winnable game. Raiders, Jets, Giants, Commanders. Like, I mean, now their schedule gets brutal towards the end of the year, but you could really stack up some wins and pull ahead of some of these other teams in your division. And we could be talking about a Steelers team that's hosting a playoff game yet again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And honestly, I mean, looking at the Commanders and the way they played, man, Daniels, that he's got it, dude. He's a good ball player. I mean, if you look at, I don't know, man, that team, they look a little almost to the point of being a scary football team. They're that.
Those haters can't stand us. Left hand up. Who are
Stop it.
we?
Oh, that was great. Um, yeah, I mean, they look like a sneaky, scary football team, and if they continue on their roll, that might be the biggest fight the Steelers have in the next 5 games. Is them. If you think about it, they're not a joke of a football team now. They're just not. They're not a joke, and I think Daniels is the reason why. He's a really good ball player. He's makes smart decisions, great arm, great accuracy. I don't know, man. You can't really ask for more,
Yeah.
especially with what they've been through for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah. Well, basically, since Kirk Cousins left, right? They haven't had competent quarterback play since Cousins left.
They really haven't. But even with that, I mean, I'm not going to hate on Kirk Cousins at all, but I think this kid's actually got more talent than Kirk
Oh, yeah.
Cousins.
He's definitely more of an athlete, and there's no
Yeah,
question about that.
absolutely. So, we'll just have to, we'll have to see how that plays out. But I got a feeling Washington's going to be a team that everybody's going to say, where the hell did they come from? They just came out of nowhere and just killing people. So, anyway, what do we do? You want to move on to the topic of the week? I mean, it was on Inside
Uh,
Edition, TMZ. What else did I see
yeah.
that on?
Well, we've got what Todd McShay said about, and I'll just read you the quote and we can talk about it. He said, "Every time I watch every pregame, halftime show, post game show, weekend show, every broadcast for the last few weeks, it's like we're not allowed to say he's out of shape, that he's been partying all off season, he's been jetting around the world with the most famous person probably in the entire world, that he's drinking, going to the U.S. Open." That's what Tom McShay said on a Monday
Yeah.
on the Ryan Russillo podcast.
Yeah.
That is in referencing Travis Kelce hanging out with Taylor Swift.
Look, I don't know what the situation is at this point. All I can say is that maybe it is playing a part. His all of his commercials over the last 30 days have aired like 90,000 times, I believe. 90,000 times. He did that show with Niecy Nash. He starred in that. He did the game show. He's doing Happy Gilmore. I don't know if it's so much I think it's just everything combined. And it may have taken a toll on him. Maybe he didn't get the workout in that he should have. But I can tell you this, he looked extremely miserable in that game. And not catching Kelsey, that's god dang, that's good. Um, he looked miserable. He looked upset. He looked like he was almost to the point of he looked defeated. And that wasn't a good look for him. Now, on the flip side of that, let's just put to bed the bullshit that is going around everywhere. I think this was started by the Swifties, if I'm not mistaken, that they said that how was it? Mahomes is ignoring him on purpose because Taylor Swift likes Harris and Mahomes' wife likes Trump, which we know is not true. They're together all the time. They're not fighting. There's no animosity between the two. He just I think he's if I had to put my spin on it, I would say that Mahomes, because I watched it in that game. We talked about it. Kelsey was open 3 or 4 times in this last game, and Mahomes didn't even look his direction. What I'm kind of assuming with this is that, and I hate to say it, but I have a feeling that this may be his last year, Kelsey's. And if it is, Mahomes is trying to get acclimated with the other guys on this football team to try to get them into that, never going to take his place, but at least maybe help, maybe lighten the departure. I don't know what else. I don't know a way of putting it. I have a feeling that's what's going on. Kelsey may be a little out of shape, but he's still out there blocking. He's still out there running great routes. He did miss a pass, but you're going to do that when you're not targeted. And I think that's playing a big part of it. I think it's messing with Mahomes' head.
Okay. I think that there's a couple of things. One, I think that they are using Kelsey in more of a distraction role than they have in the past. Because if you see where Rice is lining up and where his route, he's running the Kelsey routes. He's a lot of
He
those
is.
catches over the middle of the field, a lot of quick
Yeah.
slants and a lot of those routes. Those are the Kelsey routes that he's getting.
True.
And then the other big thing is that a lot of the Travis Kelce big plays, the ones that you can remember especially, are the off script plays, the ones where, Travis Kelce starts running his quick little in route or whatever, and then Patrick Mahomes has to break out. He has to, avoid the rush and then throw the ball. Well, Patrick Mahomes has been getting the ball out of his hands so quickly that some of those plays don't have time to develop downfield. Now, maybe this needs to be a question of as to why, some of those off script plays aren't happening up to this point. Does it have to do with the fact that he doesn't trust his left tackle possibly, because you've now gone wishy-washy as to which tackle that you want to use for the rest of the year? Like maybe that has to do with it, that you just aren't confident in your offensive line quite yet. You now don't have a strong run game. So where guys don't have to, as in the defense, they don't have to, completely stuff the box, right? Because Carson Steele looks like he's going to be a good football player. He's no Isaiah Pacheco, right? He's not as explosive as Pacheco. So I think that there's a couple of things. We're also, and get this, JP, this is going to shock you. We're also 3 games into the NFL season. Can we take a chill pill? Can we?
Okay, but I understand that, but this is not. Go back and look at the last 7 years. The last 7 years of Kelsey's career. Look where he was at after 3 games. If I'm not going to disagree with you on some of it, but I am going to disagree with the fact that if Kelsey's wide open and you're struggling to find somebody open and you're not looking his direction at all, either you're having a problem or you just don't trust Kelsey anymore. I don't know what it is, but dude, I mean, I can pull up highlights where he was standing in the field with his fucking arms up, nobody within 10 yards of him. And Mahomes runs with the ball, or he throws a little check down, or he throws a dirt ball. I don't understand. I guess I'm confused as to why, if they're using him in a more traditional role, more of a blocking tight end, a distraction, a decoy, whatever. If you're in trouble and your decoy standing out there that's been the most reliable player in your lifetime, fucking utilize him. Don't just let him stand there with his thumb up his ass, because then you're going to see him sitting on the bench going, what the fuck am I doing here? Why am I continuing to play if they're not going to utilize me? If Mahomes doesn't trust me and Andy doesn't want the ball coming my direction, what the fuck am I doing here? Why stay on the field? I could be sitting in a fucking hotel room in New York, or doing the show with my brother, or doing more commercials, or doing whatever I want to do. He loves the game. He wants to play the game. If he's standing out there and he sits down for you, fucking 35 yards downfield, 15 yards downfield, and you don't utilize him, there's something wrong, man. I don't know what that is. I still feel like Mahomes is, and maybe Andy's doing this a little bit too, is maybe they got an idea that he doesn't plan on coming back after this year. And maybe they're trying to secure someone that can actually play that, fill that role to some degree. We know Rice can do it. We know that. Not to the degree that Travis Kelce can, but he's a very viable football player and very good at it. But if you have somebody that's that fucking good, utilize him.
Yeah,
There's no
I guess
reason not to.
my next question to you is, what yardage would you give him that's like a good season?
I mean,
Like if you had to put a stamp on it, a yardage stamp, are you talking like you're expecting 500 yards this year?
no, I
400
think it's
yards,
more than that.
600?
I mean, what they're expecting and what he can do is two different things. If he can,
I'm asking you, what do you think he does this year?
I don't think he gets over 700 yards in the role that he's in right now. If they continue that way through the entire season, he won't get 500-600 yards. That'll be a lot. Think about it. 3 games in, he's got 69 yards. Break that up. Break that up over the next, 15 games and tell me what you come up with, because it's not very much. I mean, he had 4 yards, or was it 4 or 8 yards, 34 yards because of one big catch, and then really no yards. I mean, he's had 69 yards on 5 catches, dude. He's been targeted 7 times in 3 games. 7 fucking times. You know how many times we've been open relative to that? Probably 60 times. And he's not targeted. Mahomes has got to get out of his own head, first of all. And he also has to realize, I understand they're buddies. They're best friends. I get all that. But you have to utilize who you have on the field. If he's still going to play the game and be in 90% of the snaps, and he's wide open, and you're struggling to find someone because Worthy got ran over, or Rasheed's double covered, or whatever the case is, and Kelsey's standing there with his thumb straight up his ass saying, where the fuck is the ball at? I'm right here. And you're looking the opposite direction of him, you got to get out of your own head. You're there to win football games, not to worry about, oh, well, I got to make sure this guy's good next year. Because if you want a three-peat, Kelsey has to be involved. Right now, he has to be involved. It could be I've asked kind of a couple of people, and I said, "What the hell?" And it could be that they're doing this just at the beginning of the season to get everybody acclimated, and then Kelsey will have a bigger, as far as a pass role, I guess I should say, or a catch role. I don't know. That was one of the excuses I got. But when you're winning games by 1 point, 3 points, 5 points, and you've got some of the best players in the league on your team, there's a problem. You got a top 10 defense right now, top 8 defense, and you've got some of the best weapons in football, and it's Patrick fucking Mahomes. Get your ass out there, use the guys you got on the field, and fucking utilize them. Go out there and pull a Buffalo and blow somebody out of the fucking door by fucking 40 points. You know, I mean, if Buffalo can do it with the goddamn mismatched bullshit they got on their football team, we should be able to kill people. And we're not doing it. And that's scary to me. I don't want to be that team. I hate the goddamn stress of it, dude. The stress of this every week is fucking too much. It's got to be. I mean, think about it from a fan standpoint. Can you imagine what it's like if you're a fucking coach, or you're a player, if you're Mahomes, if you're Kelsey, and you're standing there going, "What the fuck, man? We're this good. We got all this talent, and we're winning games by 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 5 points." That's not going to fly through the rest of the season, dude. It's just not. And nobody wants to see that. I mean, Mahomes doesn't want to be called a check down merchant, but yet he's checking down almost every play when he's got guys wide open 30 yards downfield, like Kelsey. That's all I'm saying. And I don't want to be that guy, but I'm being that guy right now. Get the fuck off my lawn, because it's getting on my nerves. I mean, he's got to use the guy.
I just can't believe it's weird being on this side of it. You know, usually I'm the one that's like calling out guys and sounding the alarm bells. And
It's
now
scary. I know.
being on this side of it's weird. I don't know how to respond.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's watching these 3 games, I'm like, what the fuck is going on here, man? I was doing the PSF show, the play-by-play show with Thiz and Philip, and I'm on X going, what the fuck? Look at Kelsey. What the fuck? He's down there. Throw the ball to him. I don't understand Mahomes has thrown 5 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in 3 games. Who would have ever those are like fucking Bo Nix numbers. Those are numbers that nobody would ever expect out of him, ever. He's never done anything like that, ever. But he's doing it. And you could see he's frustrated. You can see that this style of play and what's going on with them right now is frustrating him more than he's ever been frustrated in any season. I think last year was the most challenging season he's ever had. This has to be worse. This has to be worse. Because they were putting up more points. They were throwing more touchdowns. They were doing more with less. To be honest with you, they had less. You got Juju, Worthy, Rice, Kelsey, all these great players, J. Watt, all of these guys out there. They don't even think about putting Hardman in a game. But yet, they're struggling. And you've got all these top-tier talent guys on the field. You shouldn't be struggling. And as far as the left tackle is concerned, if that was an issue, it should have been gone this week, because Wanye Morris had 2 pressures and no sacks and was 100% of the snaps. So that thought process of the left tackle thing, I don't believe that, because Mahomes knew after the first quarter that Wanye was doing a damn good job. Those pressures didn't come till the 3rd quarter. I don't know, man. It's just, he's got to utilize that guy. He's the best that's ever played that position, ever. Why not utilize him? He's 35 and he still can play like a 28-year-old player. So get him out there and play him. He's out there blocking people because he didn't have anything else better to do. He's putting guys on their ass out there. I don't know, man.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on, but I'm not going to freak out about it.
I'm freaked out because I have never seen a Patrick Mahomes-led offense play this poorly, ever, including last year. The first 2 games were never this bad.
Last year.
Not during go look at the numbers and tell me it was worse. The numbers was not anywhere near as worse or as bad as they are this year through the first 3 games. Go look at last year's stats. They weren't that bad. Mahomes didn't have 4 interceptions. He didn't have only 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I just think that, well, we have faced
And red zone's
two good
fucking terrible.
defenses. Yeah, like there are obviously problems, but I'm not gonna sit here and I don't feel like there's a need to get up and you know have as many problems with it, because the problems that we had with the offense last year were way more apparent and were way more problematic than what we're
Yeah, but
experiencing now.
he was able to improvise through those. And this year he's not doing that.
Yeah, and I think, and he's talked about that, right? I mean, he said to the media after the Atlanta game that that he's going away from some of his fundamentals, and he knows he's not playing his best football.
He's not. And one of his fundamentals is Travis Kelce. Think about that. He's going away from him, but he's a fundamental. He really is. He's a cheat code. No matter how you look at it, he's a fucking cheat code. And you're saying, okay, I don't know the code. I know I used that code for 8 years, but I don't really know that code. That's something that he has to get over. And Andy really has to get over it. And if it's Nagy has to get over it. Because it's not going to get any easier. Yeah, we got a couple games that may look easy, but the way we're playing, they're not going to be easy. You said it yourself. Even the Chargers missing 5 players, it's probably going to be a close game. Now, if Harbaugh goes out there and tries to run the ball, he's fucked. Because we don't allow a lot of rushers. We don't allow big running games. Our line's too good. Our linebackers are too good. That just doesn't happen. But they still have to put points up. I'm not saying that this team is screwed by any means. I'm just saying he's got to get out of his own head. He's got to utilize the guys that are on the field. And Andy's been running. I've never seen an Andy Reid offense run the ball as much as I've seen in these 3 weeks. Never have I seen that. Not with Philly, not with Kansas City. He didn't do that shit with Green Bay when he was their offensive coordinator. He didn't do that shit. He was throwing the ball 70 yards downfield almost every other play. This year, let's pound the rock. And I know the 2-high safety shell has a lot to do with it, but Andy is the best at improvising for that shit. He knows how to put 15-yard Justin Watson, 15 yards down the field. Kelce, 7, 8, 10 yards down the field, get the yak. He's not really. I mean, I've seen that maybe 3. You know, Mahomes has only got 2 20-yard passes, 20-plus yard passes in 3 games. 2. And 4 attempts. 4 attempts. It's not cool, man. They got to get this straightened out. You got to figure out how to get Rice downfield too, because I know he's not the fastest guy, but he's got game speed. And if you get him down the field and get Worthy out there as well, and then hopefully, you can't cover everybody. So if you got Kelce and Gray, Worthy and Rice, and J Watt, you're not covering all those guys. Somebody's going to be open downfield, whether it be 25 yards down or 60 yards down. Somebody's going to be there. And that was Mahomes' whole thing this year, though, Quentin. He wanted that speed back that he had with Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins and the Legion of Zoom. He wanted to put the ball downfield more. 2 20-plus yard passes. I don't know, man.
And
it's just, hopefully it gets straightened out.
And all these problems, and Kansas City has scored the second most points in the AFC.
That's so weird to me. That is so weird to me. Think about that. I mean, Buffalo just scored 47, but.
Well, that's what I mean. Buffalo has blown out 2 of their 3 opponents.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not worried about it, is because
Kelsey's reduced role is
the context around it is that, yeah, Kansas City has had apparent struggles, but they have scored the second most points in the AFC.
That's weird. I mean, it's weird to think about. What, they got 76 points or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Buffalo's got, 120?
Yeah.
It's not a huge margin. Buffalo got 47 of those points in one game.
That's what I mean. Buffalo,
yeah.
the Buffalo is an outlier in this situation, whereas Kansas City is more towards the norm.
Yeah. Now, what Philip said, I agree. It could be. But that wasn't what they planned on doing this year. Their whole goal was to be that air attack team again. And now if they are doing that, that's fine. But it's canceling out what they really are good at. And Mahomes, I mean, I guess maybe this is part of this problem is I don't want him to get in that Brady conversation. Well, all he did was check passes down and rely on Yak. Mahomes has got a very strong arm, and he's very accurate, and he's very unorthodox with the way he's played over the years. He didn't get 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards by being a check down merchant. And he had 26 or 27 touchdowns last year. And this year he's on pace to get about the same.
We'll just have to. Unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait and see where this goes next. But I'm not concerned about it.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, maybe if they play somebody that's somewhat struggling, and I hate to say it this way, but maybe if they do, I should say, then maybe that'll get their confidence level back. Maybe they'll figure out where they were before and get it back to where it should be, instead of what they're doing right now. So
the Saints are frauds, and we face them in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Derek, I don't know about that. I don't know if they're frauds or not. I mean, they have some great players on that team, and they have some, I don't know, they have some mediocre players, just like everybody else. But we'll have to see. I mean, they killed Dallas. I mean, killed them.
Yeah, they also scored like 7 points against the Eagles.
No, it was like, what was it, 16-12 or something like that?
Yeah.
It was weird, but the Eagles didn't score either. They're frauds. I mean, there's a lot of frauds in the NFL.
But we've known that.
Yeah, we've known that since the Super Bowl. But ever since Nick Sirianni had his little baby fit, they went like 7-8 or something, or 7. What is it, Philip? What's that stat that they it? Their record's been horrid since Nick Sirianni had his little baby fit. In Arrowhead.
Oh yeah, at Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever since then, their record's been like dismal.
Yeah, I think they've won like 1 or 2 games.
Yeah, it was something stupid. I mean, it was comical, and I still think Sirianni will get fired by the end of or by midway through the season if he has any more games like he's had, because he's a terrible play caller. But it is what it is. Anyway, getting back to Kelsey, I think he just they need to utilize him, and maybe they will. Maybe with Kareem on the field and opening it up a little bit, that'll help. And I know these guys are trying to gel, and I'm usually the Mr. Positive about everything. And it's just, I look at these games and I'm sitting here going, how the fuck is this possible? Honestly, the Cincinnati game should have never been that close. They're not that good. I know they play us tough, but they're still not that fucking good. Their defense isn't that good. And for them to be a 1-point game over it's a mind fuck. That's what it really is. If you really want to think about it in that aspect, it's like a mind fuck. It's like having a crazy ex-girlfriend that just won't leave you the fuck alone. That's what the Cincinnati Bengals are. They're just that team that just fucking haunts you all the time. And it's in your back of your mind, and you just can't get rid of it no matter how bad they are. I mean, Joe Burrow could go out there with one arm and a fucking crutch, and somehow they'd score 30 points when they couldn't score 3 the week before.
And you know what? Kansas City will score 31.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's what matters.
4 wins and 7 losses since Arrowhead. That's fucked up. He said, "Oh, absolutely, Philip. I mean, there's no doubt. That's why when they originally thought that he was going to come in last week, I was excited about it, just to even get him on the field. This week's going to be a totally different game. I don't think he's going to be in a ton of snaps, but when he's out there, he's going to be an impact. And that's going to be huge. Hunt's going to change the trajectory of the way this game or the way this team plays.
Right.
So anyway, moving on. What's next?
I think that's pretty much it. We hit our 2 big topics for the day. We're going to talk about the Chargers and the game coming up on Thursday. We save all that information on Thursdays. We'll get more information about injuries and that sort of stuff. So that'll be for our Thursday show.
Yep. We'll see if anybody's going to be ruled out before Thursday or Friday, which for the Chargers anyway. Well, thanks for letting me rant. I had to get that off my chest because after.
Like I said, I was just surprised that you're Debbie Downer today.
It just frustrated me to watch that game and think, why the fuck are they playing so bad? The first couple games, I thought, okay, it's the Ravens, revenge game for the Ravens, and then the Bengals. They always play us a little tough, but they suck. So there isn't any reason for them to be any different than any other football team that we play that's not very good. And then to watch this game with the Falcons and go, okay, wait, what the fuck is going on? Now, I'm going to give the Falcons all the credit in the world. They've got an elite secondary. Their secondary is probably one of the best I've seen in years. They're a phenomenal secondary. Their safeties are great. Their corners are great. They got a great secondary. But our defense started off very slow. It got better, but it started off very slow. And Mahomes was just all over the place. I mean, it just seemed like he didn't have a grasp on what was going on during that game. And usually, if you look at his career against NSC on primetime, he's a fucking beast. He wasn't a beast last week. He wasn't a beast 2 days ago. And that kind of freaked me out a little bit. Because when you put everything together, it's like, oh, shit. But like you said, they'll get it turned around. It's Andy Reid, it's Mahomes. They always turn shit around. And this is they're going for a three-peat. So have to see what happens with the Chargers. That being said, we will talk to you guys on Thursday.
Peace out, Cheese
Peace out,
Kingdom.
everybody.